Hi, I'm Catherine Reid, host of the St. Paul Forum, and coming up next, I'm talking with Julie Kearns, founder of Junket, Tossed and Found, an interesting shop in South Minneapolis. That's coming up next on the St. Paul Forum. Hi, I'm Catherine Reid, host of the St. Paul Forum, and joining me today is Julie Kearns, the founder and finder of Junket, Tossed and Found, a shop in South Minneapolis. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks so much, Catherine.
Yes, it's been fun to follow you on Facebook. I found you there, found your story, and I think it'd be just great if you could tell us a little bit about what led you to this venture, now a year old, to found this interesting shop.
Oh, wow. Well, the ultimate opening of the shop happened when my house was so overrun with treasures that it seemed like the least risky thing to do. But the business itself got started in a pretty different way. I was a brand new mother in late 2008 when my world kind of imploded around my ears. I wasn't expecting the end of a marriage to happen within weeks of the birth of our daughter. And when that happened, I lost even more than the baby weight as I coped with the loss and nursed a baby and wasn't eating and all of that just mess of stuff together. So during the months that followed that, I wound up losing about 50 pounds. And the clothing that I had in my closet didn't fit. And quite honestly, it had memories associated with it that I didn't want to keep anyway. Mm-hmm. So being at a risk for, finances, I didn't know, where my dollars were coming from. I needed clothes. I didn't have money. I was a little freaked out about everything at that point. So I took all of my old clothes, consignment and prior to consignment, old clothes from the pregnancy and prior to consignment, mm-hmm. and then went off to a little spot in St. Paul, the Goodwill outlet, and found myself some clothes in like little girl size 12 that fit me.
You needed really small clothes.
I needed tiny clothes. Yep, exactly. I wasn't looking so great. Anyway, so the stuff that went to consignment, spent some time there. I wore my tiny little clothes and life went on. And as I started to heal, I started to gain a little more weight and kind of rinse and repeat. And so I went back to the thrift store, bought more cheap
G2.
Clothes. Exactly, totally. Yeah, G2 diggers. However long you've been there, you know the names.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I took the tiny clothes to consignment, and time continued to pass. And what I realized as I started to see the returns on the consignment investment was that there was money being made, and that was something I needed pretty desperately. And so it got my wheels turning. There was margin. It was a $5 return on something I'd paid 50 cents for, and $5 isn't much, but you multiply that and
it started to add up for you.
You got it.
And like you say, you had a mouth to feed, yours mm-hmm. and another one, yep. And things had been rough, and yep. So you were starting to put two and two together, as they say, and mm-hmm. It was adding up to 5, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. So, which was pretty exciting. I'd always wanted to run my own show.
Had you really? So that was something you came from child? You grew up here?
I grew up here.
Twin Cities?
Yep, grew up locally. Grew up in Hopkins, oldest of 5, and my poor sister, I made her play garage sale in the wee hours.
Did you really?
As a kid. Oh yeah, I mean that piece
you
of
played
things.
garage sale.
Played garage sale. Yeah, okay. She didn't like it because I made her spend her pennies on the stuff that I wanted to get rid of. But
how old were you when you were playing garage sale?
7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
in those, but definitely had a little bit of commerce on the brain.
And was your family involved in commerce in any way?
No.
Was this just straight what you were interested in?
This was what I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you have a little cash register?
I wish I would have.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We just, I think I had a little paper bag or whatever.
You made something up.
I was creative. Yep.
So you made your sister play shop. So this idea was of something like that had been with you for a while.
Long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
And you'd been
So
holding on to it, or had you lost it, and was it refound, if you will?
I had lost it. Yeah, I don't know that I had anticipated being able to do some of those things. I had negotiated being a stay-at-home mother. That obviously had fallen apart when things changed. I had hoped to be self-employed, but it didn't seem that things were on a path where that could happen.
So your initial goal when you went into the marriage was to be raising your child. That was your hope.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so as things crumbled and something different had to take form.
Absolutely. And it was interesting to cope with that reality as this little one was so brand new and needing so much. And so I think that's where the passion and the excitement and the drive came when I realized that this was an opportunity. The next couple of years found me shopping a whole lot at G2. When my daughter would spend time with her father, I would scurry on over to Goodwill and start looking for...
And let's just describe G2, because both
Yes.
you and I have been there, but
Yes.
a lot of people haven't. So first of all, it's on the edge of, right by 280 and University. It's just off. It's a fascinating building, actually. It has those
Yes.
great skylights in
Yep.
it. So some people go by and say, I wonder what that is. But
Yeah.
tell them a little bit about how G2 works.
Oh, G2 is just a phenomenal place. Very interesting. It's got its own culture and rules, and it's so it is Goodwill's outlet, if you will. And when you go in, there are rules at Goodwill that aren't spoken. You just kind of need to either know them or learn them, by trial and error when you get there. But everything there, or at least the vast majority, is sold by the pound. And what that means is it's not organized and pretty and hanging with price tags. It comes out on conveyors. It comes out in bins.
Right.
And you dig for the treasure that you seek.
Was it called Diggers at one time?
It was, yep. When I first started shopping
I
there.
remember hearing it as Diggers.
Yep, it was Digger's Delight back in the
Digger's Delight, okay.
late 90s, I want to say, maybe early 2000s, and then it changed to G2.
So it has a little more, is that an attempt to be a flair? I don't know.
I'm not
A
sure.
little branding of some kind?
Yeah, I think so. And I think ultimately they realized that branding it as the Goodwill outlet was probably the safest and clearest way to go. So it's been that for any number of years now.
A long
Yep.
time.
So
Tell us a little more about the culture, because, who do you experience there? You're digging around, you're putting things in bags, you're
Yep.
paying by the pound, so there's a lot of strategy.
there is a lot of strategy. You will find a lot of resellers there. You'll also find a lot of people who are coming from other countries and will be sending the product that they pick up back to third world countries. A lot of people don't speak English. A lot of people are, actually even bringing their children in, and their children hang out while
they're
they
actually
shop.
doing in essence,
digging.
it'd be the equivalent of the dump
Yeah.
that people are
Yep.
are culling through.
Absolutely, it's salvage at its finest, and so one of the things that's interesting is when you have a community like that where English isn't a commonly spoken language, other things tend to serve that function. And one of the things that I've always found so interesting is that because even shoes don't come out matched up with their pairs, a single shoe becomes social currency, and somebody who doesn't speak English will come around with a shoe in hand, and they may offer it as a token of goodwill because they see that you have the matched pair.
Wow.
Other times, it's a little bit more sporting, and each person has one, and they'll flip a coin, and somebody calls it, and whoever wins gets to keep the pair. It's kind of interesting, but there are definitely there are people who are there every day. There is community. There are friendships that have grown out of that. Some really interesting alliances, and
so some of the people who are kind of like you, shopping for their shops.
Yes.
We're jumping ahead in the story, but
yes,
there you were digging around in there, and you started making relationships. Is that part of where the idea for the store came from, or?
No, not so much. The idea for the store, gosh, I had been really just trying to grow this thing into something that could take the place of a day job. And I had gotten my chance for that when the company that I was working for almost 3 years ago now announced they had layoffs pending. And I went to my boss and volunteered because I was already doing this side stuff, and I had a couple of other interests, and I knew that I wanted to do my own thing. So, hey, if I could make that work, That would be great. And what's funny is that I'd maintained that I didn't want to own a retail store. What was in my head was that I didn't want to have to staff it all the time. I did not want to be responsible for the overhead or the management, et cetera. And so really, when I said that it became the least risky option earlier, my house was so full of the treasures that I'd found while I was looking for clothes to sell via consignment and then eBay, that when a friend put me up to doing a vintage sale in my house instead of a garage sale or what have you, I said, well, sure, I'll try that. Will you help me? And she said yes. And then a couple weeks later, after we'd gotten the date out there, she confided that she was pregnant and feeling ill and didn't know if she was going to be able to help. And so bless Beth, it was the most wonderful, coincidence in terms of that happening. And so I had committed to it. But with just me to pull it off, my mind went to, you know what? I don't know that this is something it's not something I could continue to do, but what the heck? I'll do it as, proof of concept. Because if I can do that, and if I can bring in a certain dollar amount when I'm just marketing my house in a residential area, then it might be worth getting the commercial space so that I can get it out of my house and afford the commercial space by hosting a sale once a month. So that was kind of the math behind it. And I put all the work into it, outfitted my house. The sale went swimmingly. I met the number that I had in mind, and so I started looking. And so that happened. The sale had happened the third weekend in September. And
this was last year?
This was 2012. Yep.
Okay.
Just last year.
Just last year. Okay.
Yep. So it's gone kind of fast.
And can we? You were actually, because the way I met you was somehow you showed up in somebody else I think introduced me to your Facebook page.
Okay.
I think that was it. A friend of mine who's also a great, she's always looking for a bargain and relationships around it. I think she introduced me to you. So you had established a following on your Facebook. Is that how people were learning about you?
Correct.
And you're a little bit of a storyteller. You make it a lot of fun. I mean, you've started telling some little mini stories, or you made it enticing for people. Did you find that people were just finding you on Facebook quickly? Or was it more friendships? I'm just kind of curious how that had started to.
How that had started. I had branded myself Junket well before the store opened. Okay. Yep. I developed the brand about a year and a half in advance. So.
And was that done professionally? Did you have a friend help you? Was that you're your own design instincts?
That was my own design. Okay. Yeah. I worked with I don't know, half a dozen, 6-8 girlfriends to generate ideas for a name, and ultimately I made the choice based on some things that had come up, and
I think you even gave us some. Didn't you kind of put up a couple of samples up or something? I have some memory of you maybe showing people, here's what it's going to look like or something. I don't know if you tested it beyond your friends.
Yeah. I think I may have popped it out onto.
I have a vague memory of that. So anyway, so the behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So I just I do have some graphic design in my background. I've got some marketing in my background, and so I just was like, you know what, let's get this thing. I just knew that I wanted it to have legs. I wanted it to be ready for growth. I wanted it, at some time when I was ready to pull a trigger, I wanted it to be queued up so that I wouldn't have to deal with that on top of everything else. Okay. So.
If you're just joining us, I'm talking with Julie Kearns about her Tossed and Found shop, Junket Tossed and Found. So you had gotten this logo up. You'd kind of given you were already thinking about the shop. So how did you find the place? That sort of materializes quickly too?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. The whole thing materialized that quickly. So I did this sale the 21st through 23rd of September and said, if I can find a place, ideally I'll be open in time to have a sale before Christmas. And knowing that getting there in time for the holidays was a pretty big retail.
In retail, it's everything, right?
Exactly. Yep. So started the hunt. Was proximity and community are huge elements for me. I don't like spending time in traffic. I believe in blooming where you plant yourself, basically. And so I decided I limited my search to East Lake Street and Minnehaha Avenue. I live in the south end of the Longfellow neighborhood and wanted it to be close to home. And Ella Ritzman is a friend of mine, and she owns Ease Emporium, which is just 2 blocks north of Junket. And she knew that I was looking for a space, and she and I have been enthusiastic junkers and all that good stuff for a while now. And I just ducked my head in there and just said, do you know of anything? And she said, she's like, that building down on 41st, she said, I think half of it's open. And there are blinds there, but you might want to go and check and see. And so we didn't know who owned it, so I looked it up on tax records, and sure enough, it was Terry Bongard, who's the dentist who works in the back of that building. He was the owner. So I sent Terry a letter, included my card, said, hey, this is what I want to do. Is that space available, and would you be open to renting it to me? And that was, I don't know, I think the 14th or 15th of October was when that message hit his desk. And I had a key in my hand by the 17th of October.
Oh my gosh, he was ready too.
He was ready. He operates on trust, and which has been
he liked something about what he saw in you.
Yeah, which was pretty awesome. And that spoke to me in terms of my ability to work effectively with him as a landlord as well. I mean, that's just a big piece of this. So I had the key on the 17th, and with that in mind, a couple of people were just like, you should probably do this, and the other thing, and just get it going. And I said, okay. So, and a friend of mine said, you should be open every weekend between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Just do it. Just do it.
Nice.
Okay. So that hadn't been the plan. I hadn't really planned on, doing some of the work to the building that I did either at that time. But when all was said and done, we opened on the 16th of November for the first weekend, and then we were actually closed for Thanksgiving weekend because I already had plans to leave town. And then when we got back, we were open every December weekend prior to Christmas.
And the model for your openings, you open on Saturday mornings, is that right?
Open on Fridays.
You open on Fridays.
Yep.
Okay, so you open Friday mornings?
Yep, we open Friday morning.
And so part of it is you build a little anticipation on your Facebook following.
Correct.
And tell them a little bit about how you do that. You've got your enticements to get people to come. It includes some promo of some of the things that you found. And
Yep, and that's pretty standard in the occasional sale market. So I'm not alone in this model. There are a number of people that are doing it well. But yes, we like to create community, and with an organization and a retail location that's event based, it's important to let people know what's going on and when. And on top of everything else, Facebook won't allow you to post hours if it's not on a recurring basis, if it's not weekly.
Okay.
So I literally have to manage that. I have to turn it on before the sale and turn it off right after the sale, and so it's just not as easy for everybody to track what's going on. So letting our Facebook fans know what's going on by inviting them to the event and making sure they know that the dates and hours are X, Y, and Z is important. Sharing pictures of what is coming up is important. Engaging them in other ways is helpful too. We've started doing actually like a Tuesday trivia that we'll give away $10 in store credit to the person whose response to the question gets the most likes in a given week or what have you. So making it fun and interesting is a big piece of it, and then giving people something that they can relate to. And I think that by having been as vulnerable as I've been, both with my business and the story that led up to it, people are connecting.
Definitely.
And it's
now, some of what tell me a little bit about, I believe, if I'm following you correctly, you're doing some helping people of clearing out their houses and so forth. Am I following that, or what's the other aspect? Is that another person's business?
That is historically another person's business. What we're realizing is that there's a gap in the market between paying somebody to sell your stuff for you, whether that's estate sale or auction or what have you. So you've got that service where you can bring in some money for the stuff, and we're talking about people's parents or empty nesters who are wanting to downsize or what have you. Right. So you can make money, or you can pay someone to get rid of it for you, and in that case you're paying them. They are responsible for clearing everything out of your house, but you're also going to pay the storage fees hourly, et cetera. There's not a gap in there where stuff can just go, where you don't have to worry about paying somebody, and where you don't have to deal with it yourself. And so we haven't historically been in that market, but it is something that we're open to,
so you're kind of looking at it.
Assisting with. Is to, if really all you want is to not have things go in the landfill, and not have it cost you an arm and a leg, we're happy to come in before you have to hire somebody to take as much good stuff out in terms of reuse and what we think we can keep in rotation as we can.
And then does that go as consignment?
That would not be consignment.
That's not consignment. You're basically collecting it out. You're making sure it's not getting just thrown away.
Correct.
And then your benefit. I mean, so it pays for your time by
Correct.
virtue of
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a pretty nice service actually
So,
for people
yeah.
who are. I mean, you're really saying there's a lot of good stuff here. How do we actually make it find another home?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's quite a bit of work that goes into that. You know.
Oh my
So,
gosh, yeah. There's a lot of physical labor. Well, you were just telling us before we started that there was some physical labor today.
Yes. Yes. The orange restaurant booths, 1960s era. We got to haul those out of an old restaurant, and they'll be in the shop for our next sale. So.
And tell me, is vintage a big piece of this? And when you talk about vintage, what do you mean? Or is it a combination of contemporary and vintage? How do you describe sort of the character of what you're interested in getting into the shop?
The character of what I'm interested in, vintage is a big piece of it. Repurposed is another big piece, or repurposable. So we really are focusing on one, we're mission driven to keep things out of the landfill. And if we think that it has integrity, whether it's material integrity or character or functional integrity, we'll do what we can to make sure that it becomes available to someone else. We are, in addition to providing old things that have a past life, we are also actively representing artists who work in repurposed and found materials.
Okay.
We've been doing that since within a sale or two of opening last year, and historically we've limited it to neighborhood artists within the Longfellow area. It's been really well received, and it's been neat to see. The secondary goal of that is to give people who may have, an interest in creating ideas. Hey, I can do that, and to then supply them with the parts and pieces that they need to make things interesting. Ultimately, I'd like to be an alternative to Michaels or Joanne Fabrics or Crafts. They serve a need in the marketplace, but there really isn't anyone that's organized and making the creative supply available when it comes to used goods. There's just so much of it, and it's so little and rinky-dink, so it can be hard to operationalize. So that's one of the.
So that's one of your goals.
That's one of the goals. Yep.
So tell us, you're only a year into it, and I've just gotten a taste that there's a big expansion underway. What's happening now?
There is a big expansion underway. We are taking advantage of fortunate timing. The tenant in the adjacent space to Junket cleared out this past month, and we have had the opportunity to take over that space. And so it's a 1904 building. It is old and has lots of character, and between the new main floor space and a basement space in that same section, we're adding, basically we're going from about 800 to 900 square feet to 2,400 square feet of retail space that will be providing everything from the creative stuff that we've talked about to furniture, old and repurposed, to art that is repurposed, and there will be, almost 3 times as much.
And are you going to still be the overall owner of this, or are you bringing in other business people who are running their own section? How is that working?
So I own the shop, and we are bringing in 10 other dealers that are like-minded, that have similar have a similar aesthetics, similar philosophy. We're really excited to be bringing together people that are all about collaboration, about reuse, about just the energy that comes with keeping this good stuff in rotation. So we will have artists who are vending with us. We will have Carver Junk Company, for example, is another shop very similar to us that operates out in Carver, Minnesota, out west, and they are actually coming in as an anchor tenant and are going to be opening their second location within Junket as a store within a store concept. So they'll have over 600 square feet in the basement at Junket as it expands. So pretty excited.
Does that mean that they're bringing some of their things that are more from the rural, slightly more rural Carvers a little bit farther out? Is it still have that urban feel?
It's still kind of that urban feel. They operate with vendors from around the metro, and while Junket's philosophy has been to keep it really hyper local, right in Minneapolis. I've realized that to involve others, one, means opening it up a little bit, but two, Carver's running things similarly to how they run things in Carver, which is pulling from Minneapolis, Richfield, Bloomington, you name it. They've got people that are doing great work and bringing in some of their vendor product into their store within ours. So they have so many fans, raving fans. We're just really excited.
So it's going to really expand your base than on
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
page and everything. So
Yeah.
if people want to, so it's coming up on prime retail season. You're going to be able to be open during Thanksgiving this year?
We'll be open the Friday, Black Friday through Sunday.
But
Correct.
it'll be, instead of being Black Friday, since it's local, everybody can spend as much as they want, right?
It's responsible. Yes, exactly. So that actually will be, so that Friday, instead of doing Black Friday, we're going to be celebrating our grand expansion with, we'll have drawings and all that good stuff. And so our preference is that people will regift this holiday season and will come to Junket to do that.
So essentially the Thanksgiving weekend will be the kickoff for the whole
You got it.
holiday shopping season that's so important. So there'll be lots of varieties of things. And the best way for them to learn about your schedule and everything is to like your Facebook page.
Correct.
And so we'll put that up and let people see that. And
that'd be great.
And then do we dare ask what's next? I mean, this is sort of, it doesn't seem fair to ask what's next when you've done so much in such a short time. But
well, we're gonna.
Maybe there's something that was planted in that 7-year-old self that could see something for the future.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. I did develop the brand again with the capacity to grow and expand. It's a little frightening to share this on tape, but my vision is to have a national presence, to whether it be to franchise or to help to create communities around the practice of reuse and the practice of engaging creatively with each other and with a community. And so my best case scenario would be to help others in other areas make this happen. We'll see.
We'll see.
The jury's out.
They heard it here first.
Yes.
That's all we have time for. Come join us again next week on the St. Paul Forum.